Have you ever looked at a harmful relationship from the outside and just wondered, why? Why does someone stay? It can seem like it defies all logic. But what if I told you there's a powerful, almost mechanical, psychological engine at work? Today, we're going to pop the hood and unpack the mechanics of trauma bonding.
All right, so here's our roadmap. First, we'll tackle the big paradox of these unbreakable-seeming bonds. Then, we'll get a clear definition of what a trauma bond actually is. After that, we'll dive into the cycle that keeps it running, look at the brain chemistry that locks it all in place, and finally, we'll talk about how to recognize the pattern.
Okay, first up, the unbreakable bond. Let's get right into the heart of this whole paradox. This is the question, isn't it? It just feels so backward. How in the world can the most intense feelings of connection and loyalty be created in the most painful, damaging situations? Well, it's not about a simple choice. Turns out it's a really complex survival response, something that's wired deep, deep inside of us.
So that brings us right to Section 2, Defining Trauma Bonding. And this subtitle is absolutely key. This isn't about a choice or some kind of character flaw. It is a predictable psychological response. So, what is a trauma bond exactly? Well, you can think of it as this incredibly powerful emotional glue between an abuser and a victim. And it's made from two key ingredients, a recurring cycle of mistreatment and, this part is so important, it's followed by moments of reward or kindness. Those good moments are what make the bad moments so confusing and the bond so incredibly hard to break. You know, when you see them side by side like this, the difference is just stark. A healthy bond, right? That's built on trust. It feels safe. It feels consistent. A trauma bond, though, is built on a foundation of fear and total unpredictability. The feeling isn't security. It's this chaotic, exhausting intensity, a constant roller coaster between danger and relief.
Which leads us to our next section, the cycle. So how does this actually work? Well, think of it like a four-stroke engine. It's this repeating cycle that powers the attachment and just keeps it going and going and going.
And here is that engine in action. See, it starts with tension building, that feeling of walking on eggshells, where you just know something is about to happen. Then, boom, the incident, the conflict. But right after, you get the reconciliation, the apologies, the promises, it'll never happen again. And that leads to the most deceptive stage of all, the calm, the honeymoon phase. Everything feels good again. It reinforces this hope that maybe this time, things will actually be different. But the cycle just repeats, and with every lap, the bond gets stronger.
And this right here, this is the real trap. It's not the constant abuse that makes the bond so strong. It's the unpredictable moments of kindness. It works exactly like a slot machine. You pull the lever, you get nothing. You pull it again, nothing. But then you get a small win. That unpredictable reward is incredibly addictive, and it keeps you putting in coins, always hoping for the next payout.
But why does this pattern feel so physically powerful? Why is it so hard to just walk away? Well, that brings us to Section 4, a chemical lock. We have to look at what's happening on a biochemical level.
Think about it like a chemical roller coaster in your brain. During that tension and incident phase, your body is flooded with the stress hormone, cortisol. Then, during the reconciliation and honeymoon phase, you get this sudden huge hit of dopamine, the reward chemical. That extreme swing from high stress to sudden relief creates a powerful, addictive pathway in your brain. Your brain doesn't just get used to the cycle, it actually gets hooked on it.
And over time, something really tricky starts to happen. Your brain starts to misinterpret this wild chemical ride. It's wired to seek connection, right? So it starts to mistake the sheer intensity of this survival cycle, the dramatic highs and the terrifying lows, for the intensity of love. The chaos literally starts to feel like passion. It feels like connection.
Okay, so we've looked at the mechanics, but what does this actually look like in a person's life and behavior? Let's get into our final section, recognizing the pattern.
Now, I want to be really clear. This isn't a clinical checklist, but there are some common patterns you might see. Things like defending the other person's harmful actions, or pulling away from friends and family who express concern. Sometimes people will describe feeling literally addicted to the person. They'll hide all the negative stuff. And maybe the most heartbreaking sign of all is this profound, frustrating inability to leave, even when a part of them desperately wants to.
And this really is the whole point. Once you understand how a trauma bond works, it completely shifts the conversation. The question is no longer, why don't they just leave? Instead, it becomes, what powerful forces are holding them there? And that shift, right there, is the first real step towards empathy and genuine awareness.
So in the end, a trauma bond isn't some kind of mysterious, magical force. It's mechanical. It's a pattern, a cycle, a chemical reaction. And that leaves us with one last question to think about. If this bond is built like a machine, then maybe, just maybe, understanding its blueprint is the first real key to figuring out how to take it apart.